All right, walk-in doors and their hinges. So walk-in cooler and freezer doors have hinges that are self-closing. There's two types of those. There's cam lift hinges. We'll take a look at those a little bit, and then there's spring-assisted hinges. So here are the door hinges and the closers. Let me get out my drawing tool here. All these all pull up. Okay, the cam lift hinge. This is what it looks like when it's closed. And then as you open the door, there's a little cam in there that raises up the door a little bit so that when you release the door, the weight of the door uses that cam and that little nylon pin and cam in there that will automatically close the door. And then there's a cam lift with a spring assist, so it works the same way as a cam lift, but there's a little spring there to give it a little more oomph to close. And then there's usually a door closer at the top. So this roller part is on the door. This little catch device is on the frame of the cooler. And when you open up the door, it pulls this catch that has a little rubber wheel on it. It pulls it down to this position, and then you open up the door. Then when the cam lifts or the spring assisted door closes and it comes up to this door closer, that little rubber wheel strikes right here, and then there's a spring in here that'll pop that wheel up there, and it pulls this door closed on the top. These I've had to replace quite often because the freezer door gets opened and cooler door gets opened thousands of times a year, if not more. Same thing with the hinges. They tend to go bad. Those cam lifts are nylon in there, and they wear out quite often. All right, let's take a look at a walk-in door section. And again, this is not a do-all, end-all walk-in box, walk-in type chapter. This is to get you familiar with the basics of a walk-in box and some of the things to look for if you're going on your first call and you're having issues. A lot of times it's not a refrigeration issue as much as it is a box issue. So let's take a look at that. So here's a side view of the freezer door frame. So we'll just, most of the freezer doors, let me find my little pen here. Let's start at the bottom. Freezers, all right, so there's a huge difference in temperature between the outside air and the inside air. So this is the inside part of the freezer. Here's the outside over here. Huge difference in temperature. There will be threshold heaters, electric heaters, to keep this warm and to keep ice from forming here. There's also door frame heaters. This will go all the way around the door frame to keep the door frame warm enough so that if any air seeps in, it doesn't, the moisture in the air doesn't freeze on the door and prevent it from closing. This display shows the thermometer on the outside, which will be digital on the newer ones, and a dial type thermometer on the older units. It also shows the thermometer well on the inside of the door and just above the door. I didn't see this very often when I was working commercial refrigeration. Most of the time, the thermostat and thermometer are hooked up together, and that especially the digital ones, and they were on the return air side of the evaporator. But to just read the temperature, and if it's a dial thermometer, it will come inside the box, and if it's done correctly, there'll be a piece of PVC here that has a cap on the bottom, and then there'll be some glycol, food grade type glycol in here, and the thermometer will be down inside of that. That way any air changes from a door opening and closing don't affect the display. And there's a door closer I talked about as well. Remember we talked about the pressure relief port. Here's what happens if you don't have one, or what can happen is when the freezer, and this is the inside of the freezer, goes into defrost, the air temperature of the freezer can get 40-50 degrees fairly rapidly, and that air inside the freezer expands. If there's no way for it to go out, sometimes it will expand enough to pop the door open, and if someone's not there to close it, then you end up with some icing issues. So a lot of times you'll see a pressure relief port. So if the pressure inside of the box increases, it's got a little flapper type valve in here, and it's going to just kind of burp out that extra pressure on the inside and relieve it through the pressure relief port rather than popping that door open.